Future trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am Cody. This is Andy. We are both back in the driver's seat after about a 3-week hiatus. I'd like to give a shout out to Jim Matthews, for filling in for me last week. He did a spectacular job. But we are back, baby. We're back.
Good to be back in the saddle with the cowboy himself. What's going on with the Packers, by the way? Isn't that big game coming up?
Packers, Bears. Bears are favored by 1.5 points. I got the Pack all day. I'm excited.
All day. Comment, subscribe on Tech Talk to get to Cody. He'll bet you all day.
All day.
So you're getting 1.5 points and taking the Packers. Is that right?
Taking the Pack, yes, sir.
Got it. Okay. Are they going to win the Super Bowl?
The best part is NFL football is back on tonight. We're back.
We're back.
It's the best time of the year.
You know what? I was talking to a guy today. We'll call him Double R for now, right? So Double R, we were talking about Frito pies. So it's that weather is starting to come in where it's getting a little crispier outside.
For sure.
So for those that have never had a Frito pie, it's basically like you fill up like a bag of Fritos with chili and then maybe some cheese or something like that. And you just you eat it. I don't know what else you do with a Frito pie.
Football food.
Good. Doesn't that sound like you're at a game?
It does.
And you got a Frito pie.
Yeah, it gets me excited, man. I'm pumped.
I'm for so Frito pie. We'll talk. Excited. We'll see what kind of Frito. I'm thinking those scoops, but those big ones. Those where you get a honk of chili in there. Go.
I love it.
All right, we got to get going.
First chart of three.
First chart came at request, none other than the man himself, head of Insights, Phil Plord. We know him as Wisco Phil.
Wisco Phil.
U.S. dollar. What do you want to do here? Dollars are getting more expensive.
The dollar looks like a buy.
Are you finally going to take that European vacation you've always talked about and take your dollars and be able to spend them a little bit more aggressively?
I think so. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't we look at the dollar about, was it like a month and a half ago, when we had that pretty wicked downturn there towards the end of August?
Yeah, we did, and it was July. But who's counting?
There you go. Thank you.
So this is a weekly dollar, right? So we just had the daily. So let's take a quick peek at the daily. It's been on a tear here, 99 to 104.5. Good night. So I'll start with the daily. What sticks out to me is two things. Obviously, you've got this nice big uptrend, but you're starting to cross into overbought territory down here, and that's per the RSI, so Relative Strength Index. It's a secondary indicator. So the first is really just the chart itself, and it's strong like bull. But you're getting some warning signs here that it's crossed into overbought territory, which the sell signal would be is if it crosses back below. So the dashed line here. So it crosses through this dashed line. Let me blow this up for you here.
This is the first time we've gotten into overbought territory, right? We touched it a few times, even going back into February, but never physically crossed it.
Correct. So last time we got into overbought territory was back here in late Feb, and we had a nice little down ticker here. Conversely, look where it crossed into oversold territory. Bam! Yeah. Right there at that down tick that we just looked at on the weekly. We'll look at it in a second. So the secondary indicators are saying it's overbought. So that is kind of pointing to being a little bit cautious about being long here. That would at least suggest that if you're long and you've got some good equity in the position, buy puts or do something. Maybe you can just get out and just outright buy calls or something. But the other piece of it too that I think is interesting is that you're not. So this is the momentum piece of it. And this is the other secondary indicator we like to look at. And it's just basically showing how today's settle is relative to the last, in this case, 12. I believe this is 12 period momentum. These trade technically pretty well, right? And so you're bumping up against a former high right here. And if it starts to kind of run out of gas, that's another signal that this run higher is running out of gas. You'd want to see this break into new highs for this to continue moving higher, but it's not. So that said, weekly looks like it's still got some. You're getting a little bit of conflicting differences between the weekly or conflicting charts between the weekly and the daily. Weekly still says there's still some more room to go. So what you could see is kind of just a temporary setback, and then have another leg up, according to this, because this is not overbought yet on the longer term basis.
I mean, looking at the weekly, do you think we get back into that 108 range, 109, kind of where we started to really taper off and kind of fall apart last time?
I certainly think that's possible. I think the first thing we need to do is test this area and maybe consolidate for a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're going to give some of this back and then have another leg up. So I put this here as like, to your point, if we get that 108 type, like basically where we really started to accelerate this break, to get that, I think you're going to have to get at least over this 105 half. Drew it here up against this close, right? Because this tried to get through and couldn't do it. But these are the kind of bumped up against resistance here. So that close is 105.32. Yeah, I feel like you get a short-term setback, and then you're going to go test this area again. And if it breaks through, then it's a 108 type trade. Yikes.
Just got to get past it. We get a little bit of running room.
Just a little bit of a potential for a setback, and then on a very much longer-term basis. Dang. Yeah, that 105 half. I mean, look at that. That's a monthly. There's a lot of resistance there.
Little rounding pattern going on there, my friend.
It's a little dicey there, Richard. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah, I think if you were long, you'd want to be a little bit cautious about a potential for a setback. I'd probably, if you wanted to stay long, do something to hedge those long spine puts. It could turn into a little bit of a bumpy flight here. That's the way the daily is kind of peeking out at. I don't know. I don't like bumpy flights. Do you like bumpy flights?
Not a big fan.
You're not a big fan of bumpy flights? Not really a big fan of bumpy flights.
I don't think anybody's a fan of bumpy flights. Anyway.
There may be some people out there that like it. I don't. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
What's our next chart?
What's the next chart? All right. Who cares about flying? Bam. This is October. Jimbo and I looked at this last time.
You did. I saw it.
I'm pretty sure he was talking about buying it. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think last week you would have been right. I think even this week you could be right. Look at that settle. What do we have Oct settle at today? 1921.
Okay, so it settled 21. Last year's price is 18, I think. So it basically settled into a new high going back to like early May.
Right.
You have to go back into here to get the settlement.
Now you're bumping up against that 200-day moving average closed there
I think
today.
It settled above it.
Did it settle above it? Oh, you're right. I think we got like a tick or two above there.
Yep. You got to really scroll in there, but it sure did.
You bet.
Settled about 200-day moving average. That hasn't happened. Gosh, you got to go way back.
Is that March?
I mean, this feels like, I don't know. This feels like it could add in some premium before it starts pricing. If you want to learn more about pricing months, check out Bases Loaded with Joe. Yeah, I mean, it's not that. So you take October is last traded price 1918, 1832 is current cash using Sepway. I don't know, add in like a nickel per pound in cheese, 4 or 5 cents. You're talking about 40, 50 cents a class 3. So it's in terms of premium, to be fair. So it's probably more like an 1875, 1880 type price. It's not really that big of a premium.
It's not.
It really isn't. So for it to want to price in 75, 80 cent premium to, what like a NAS type number before it begins pricing, because you still have another week of SEP, right? Next week?
Correct.
Yeah, you could see a little popper here, especially now that you got over the 200 day. In fact, I think it was Wisco Phil, that was talking about this bull flag, the potential for a bull flag here.
You're right. It was.
It was.
Yep.
So if you take that, we still have this line. I didn't touch it in terms of like the length of it, but this is where the flagpole. You to use that as your measurement. $20. What do you think? We're going to go trade $20?
Oh, I think it'd be a big stretch. I mean, I guess from 1980 to $20, you're not asking too much. 20-cent jump right there. It's not out of the question. Like you said, we have another week of September. Anything could happen. We're not even to the middle of the month yet. There's a lot of things that are propping this thing up to be a little bit more of a bullish October than we had originally anticipated.
Well, football's right around the corner, right? People are going to be sprinkling cheese on those Frito pies.
Exactly.
What else are they going to? I mean, like people eat cheese, they eat pizza when they watch football. That's just a fact.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what's interesting about this is that you have this big inside day or outside day right here, right? It didn't open lower like you would have expected. Like below this low, that would have been kind of a really bearish signal, and you've gotten all that back, right? And so this right here, if you just look at the chart like this, man, that looks weak,
right?
But it handled that really well and is back now above that close of 1892, high of 1921. So we basically settled on the high here of this move. I mean, that's a friendly looking chart. It doesn't feel like you need much out of the cash market to get this thing to pop.
Right.
I think if they bought that barrel at Unst today, I think it was offered at lunch, like a penny or 2 cent lower bid. Maybe you bid I don't think you need to bid the block up that much. It doesn't feel like you need to get a lot of upside out of cash to get October to pop here.
Right. And lately, I think you mentioned this outside of Tech Talk, we've had a lot of support around $19, and we saw the same thing today. Right.
Yeah.
We saw the very same thing today. You get one offer at lunch, we kind of fall apart a little bit, and then as soon as it closes, no trades, right back up.
I guess the only thing that, like, where are we wrong is if we get a close below all this noise.
Yeah.
So what's this low? This is 1878. This one's 1875. I think if you got a close below the last 2 days, not including today, lows, that to me would be a pretty wicked, reversal there. You probably want to reconsider the longs. But I think there's a pretty good risk reward here, right? From being on the long side.
I completely agree with you. Now the question is, do you want to buy something on the open tonight? Do you want to wait to see how we kind of trade into tomorrow morning?
I think if we open higher tonight, it's one of those things where, let's say we opened at 19 and a quarter or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, that to me, it's you closed into new highs going back to early May, right? You closed above all this noise. Anybody that was selling it between here basically and up till now is now underwater.
True.
So I think you can get that push, but I think you need that stronger open. I think we need to open 5-7, 19 quarter type trade. You can probably own some a little bit. We haven't crossed into overbought territory yet. That right there too. It's got some room on some of the secondary stuff too to give it a little bit of a push. I don't think we just rip higher. Like, I don't think we're a 20 and a half type trade, but yeah, to go trade like 1975, I don't think it's out of the question at all.
All right.
We'll see.
We will see. Speaking
of strong like bull, last but certainly not least,
one of our favorites.
I mean, is Coster Dairy you guys that's it? Liquidate all, just take the cows to beef.
Dude, I mean, all joking aside, it seems to be that's what a lot of people throughout the country are doing with these prices. Even looking at this chart, I mean, if you're not making a whole lot of money in the milk check and you get a little bit extra for culling some of these cows, we've seen it. You and I have talked to guys who are doing it because of this reason and this pricing right here, and it just continues. And I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people have asked me is like, okay, when is the party over? When is this high price going to stop? And I don't know. Every time I go back and look at the chart, I'm like, I honestly don't know. If you look at this Nov feeder chart at 250, you've got a lot of support that we have seen for the past 2 months.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is like when you think about like an uptrend or just a trend period.
Yeah.
It's not showing unsustainable price action, meaning like, you just rip like, a nickel, like these big moves, right? So like what I'm talking about, if I can go back to October real fast, is this, right? October, that let low for 1704, 3 days later, its high is pretty much $19. That type of rate of change is just not, it's not sustainable price action, right?
Right.
Unless you're Food Box and we're going to $3, but I don't think that's happening right now. So, but like the trend, I guess my point is that it's very sustainable price action. It's not ripping its face off. It's just steadily grinding higher. So I think until that changes, price action is it's very strong. And going back to your comment about uncharted territory, this is a monthly.
I just pulled up the monthly also, and now we just keep climbing this thing. Like you said, I mean, not straight up, but it's just climbing itself higher.
Yeah. And this right here, what's interesting about this chart is you had this big move and there was just next to nothing out of the bears. Look at this. You went from 195 to 240 in like the next couple of months were just kind of like ho hum, but did little. They didn't even retrace anything. I mean, this was a higher close right here and then opened higher and keep going. So I don't know. I hear you when people asking the question, like, when's the party over? I think you need to see like a daily chart like this really accelerate. You've got some longer term, like, if you really want to just, I guess, start from right here, right? When does this get broken and then confirmed? We have yet to see like the major trend have any sort of like breakdown. So that has to happen to even think about getting short.
And my only other question is if you can go back to the monthly real quick, Andy,
sure can.
On RSI, this is going back quite a ways, but if you look back into 2014 when we made that massive run up, kind of like we're doing right now, and then you went into overbought territory, I mean, we're kind of at that same mark right now.
Yep.
but we haven't seen the wicks like we had seen back in 2014, where it was giving you a look of saying, hey, this thing is probably going to pull back a little bit, kind of forming into an M formation back then, and now there's nothing of the sort.
So here's one thing to be really mindful of, and it just hit me. And I'm glad you brought this up about this piece, because if it can't get into higher than this 84 mark on this RSI, that's what I'm looking at right here versus right here, then that's a beginning sign of weakness. You could also it has the potential, I'm not saying it's happening, it's got the potential for what's called an island reversal. And what that means is that you have like a gap higher on this candle gaps higher, and then the next candle gaps lower. So it would kind of like, open around where this close was 249. So an island reversal, typically you see, again, you have this big move, gaps in that direction, in this case higher, and then the next candle kind of gaps a little bit lower and then starts to progress lower. That has potential for an island reversal.
Okay.
It's still, what is this? It's only the 7th. So there's still plenty of time left on this bad boy right here, this candle. So it's really early to say that. But if come, end of the month and we're still here, and then we open lower, you have like a gap lower the next month, that would be a sign of weakness for sure. And then you would likely get like this RSI which should theoretically roll over.
Right.
You want to see something kind of wild, by the way? You know what this reminded me of right here so that M that you looked at reminds me of April 2011 milk. Look at that.
Ooh.
This was a crazy move.
There you go.
You know why? Because I think if I remember correctly, it's been a while, but current cash before pricing was like up here. And then we started pricing like right around here, and boop, cash went to like here. So anyways, when I saw that on the feeders, what is that, a monthly? That looked just like it.
I mean, it's definitely good to go back and look at stuff like that. Looks
wicked.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, for now, though, I guess keep an eye on this, the potential for an island reversal. We'll see. I don't know. Is the hammer doing anything?
I think right now the hammer's actually going to buy some feeders. It's been a couple of weeks. The hammer's back out.
Get that thing out. Let's take a look. What do you got?
I think we're buying Nov Feeders right now.
Buying Nov Feeders. Are you buying October milk too?
You know what? I think we're going to be buying October milk, and I believe we're going to be buying the dollar index also. This is what we like to call in the business a trifecta.
Trifecta.
Buying all three.
Bam. On that note, it is great to see you back in the saddle. The Cowboys back. Finger pistol and all.
I'm happy to be back. I'm pumped we're doing this again. We will see everybody next Thursday. We will not be in a hiatus for a long time. We appreciate Phil calling in, asking us for these charts, seeing what we think. If anybody else would like to see any going further, please give us a call, shoot us an email, maybe a text. We'd be happy to take a look at them and chat about them just like we're doing right here. But until then, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Bears-Packers game, and we'll see you next week.
Did you set up your smoke signals, by the way? So people can smoke signal you charts, or it was carrier pigeons, right?
Carrier pigeons. Gotta wait for them pigeons to come in. I opened my window.
I think you should trade some carrier pigeons. I really think that would be that would just